Welcome back to From Within She Rises. Today we are stepping into a sacred conversation with a soul that I deeply admire and love, Miss Katie. And Katie is a dear sister on a path that's very similar to what mine was, who was a former bodybuilder and a former coach, who's turned into a spiritual guide, who's journeying from, I would say, creating physical perfection to embodying presence. And this has been nothing short of a beautiful metamorphosis. And she now shares her light as a breathwork and Kundalini activation facilitator, amongst many other beautiful modalities that she mishmashes together into her beautiful coaching. And she's leading others through the tender threshold of becoming. Today, she's going to open the veil to her cocoon, what it truly has felt like to molt, to shed, to be undone in love. This conversation is about truth, it's about trust, and the unbecoming that leads us back to the soul. So before we start, let's drop in. Close your eyes if it feels safe to do so. Letting your spine be tall, not rigid. Just allowing your jaw to soften. Feel the back of your heart, the space between your shoulder blades. Taking a deep breath in through the nose and a sigh out through the mouth. Feel the body you live in, the sacred skin that maybe you've outgrown. Just breathe in again once more. This time we're inhaling the mystery of who you're becoming and exhaling the name you no longer need. Breathe into that cocoon, letting it soften, stretch, shimmer. And when you're ready, open your eyes and we'll begin this beautiful conversation. I will let Katie, who I've known for a few years and has always just been like a soul sister to me, and we just mirror each other so beautifully. I'll let her take over and introduce herself a little here.
Thank you for having me, Jessie. I've been eagerly awaiting this catch up with you and your beautiful audience that you're creating. A little about me. We live in totally opposite ends of the world. I am based down under in New Zealand. I am a mum of 5 children, so much like you, a busy mum who really lost herself in amongst learning to be a mum and serve a whole lot of tiny humans, who then became my greatest teachers as well. I have really pivoted in the direction that I've taken with my work, because while I still love all things bodybuilding, you know, we need to have a sport that we follow, and that is mine. What I learned on my journey of coaching these women is that so much of their self-worth is tied to how they look. And there's so much judgment, and there's so much shame, and there's so much guilt, and there's so much negativity around what they see when they look in the mirror. And it really stops them from stepping into their own cocoon to discover who they are and celebrate who they are. With, you know, we all have this vessel. We have this beautiful vessel that we get to walk through our human existence with. And we spend so much of our time here on earth punishing it and hating it, when really it is the container that holds the codes, that holds the magic, that is an incredible portal and can bring so much forth. And so my journey has just kind of twisted and twirled along for the last few years until here. And I'm so excited that the world is starting to become more accepting of this work, and there are more people courageous enough to step in. So That's who I am. That's part of my mission.
Mm-hmm.
My mission has many dimensions. I'm a very multi-dimensional person. You could never fit me inside of a square box.
Those are the best kind of people.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a bit about me, I suppose, in a brief rundown.
Yeah, you've been changing a lot this year, last couple of years maybe even, and same. But can you take us back to the moment where your old identity really started to crumble, where you really knew that you had to get into that cocoon, and what did it feel like once you got inside?
Yeah. Um, so I can literally recall this day, and I think I've written about it in content because I think it's really important to show the people that we are humans with human experiences and big
Mm-hmm.
feelings as well. My partner and I have spent the last 11 and a half years running large scale dairy farms here in New Zealand. And I literally fell to my knees outside the cowshed in the pouring rain, and I was done. I was literally done. I was done with everything. I was done with the negativity. I was done with trying to serve. I was done with trying to please. I was done with people hating on themselves, people hating on other people. And just, I was really starting to see how wounded the people in my field were. And it
Mm-hmm.
really, in turn, mirrored back to me my own wounds. And so during that, I think I was exhausted physically, emotionally. I had a young child. My youngest was young, and I was really struggling with knowing how to parent him the way he needed to be parented. And so I
Mm-hmm.
decided to go along to breath work for the first time ever, not actually knowing what breath work was. And I thought I was going to have someone to teach me how to breathe through my stress and my frustrating times so that I
Yeah.
could in turn respond better. And
Mm-hmm.
when I met this incredible facilitator that lived not far from me, Stacey, and I will be forever thankful for him. And we had a great chat. This is why I'm here. And he dropped me into this breath work, and life has never been the
You
same
were going
since.
in for a nice calm box breath, and that's not what you got.
Not at all. And I was really showing, like it was in that first session, like this, there's so much that you need to peel back and dissolve and
Mm,
transmute and alchemize to step into your purpose and your mission and your power. And that is why you're here. Like you are here to do
mhm.
great work, but there's things that need to happen before then and amongst that as well. Um, and so life has never been the same since.
Yeah,
Since
breathwork,
that
I
one
tell you.
moment. Yeah.
It's yeah. It's a good
Hmm.
catalyst to catapult you forward.
Yeah. And it really, that was my wake up call of we as humans, especially women, like we are really incredibly hard and critical of ourselves and our bodies.
Mhm.
And it was in that session that I first understood how
Mhm.
much is held within our bodies, how magical it is, how much power.
Mm,
That's where our life force comes from. You know, like every experience we have is stored there. So we
yeah.
need to get into our bodies.
Mhm.
We need to
Yeah.
get out of the monkey mind. And it's just been like this journey of ascension ever since. And some days it's been challenging.
Yeah, I
And
remember because I think I was doing a breathwork facilitator course when you were like, "Oh, I'm doing a breathwork like the next week or something." And I remember you telling me about that and not you definitely didn't know what you were getting yourself into. But we never really do, you know. Yeah, it's so
but I
interesting
think that's
how
the representation, right, of like I went to that session thinking this is what I need.
Mhm. And it was.
Um, yeah, but
You just didn't know
I
why.
got what I got what I needed, not what I wanted from that session, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that has always been ever since how I've approached things. And I say to people like that come into
I love
sessions
that.
with me, like set an intention, absolutely, but remember that you're going to get what you need, not necessarily what you want, and your body is going to deliver you the maximum of what you're ready and prepared to handle right now.
Mm-hmm.
So while intentions are beautiful in sessions, I don't think they always map the path that we take in our journeys.
Yeah. I think there's like I feel like for me now, setting an intention is like a word, right? Because
Mm,
then it doesn't come with an expectation and it allows me to surrender more. So when I'm setting an intention for meditation or a breathwork session or whatever I'm doing, I try to stick with like one or two words because I feel like if I keep it concise, and like, like sometimes my intention is literally just surrender, which I feel like is the
mm,
safest option. But it leaves you more room because a lot of the times the only reason why we're disappointed is because we had an expectation.
yeah,
It's not the intention, it's
yeah,
the expectation for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when you surrender, you'll always get what you need in that moment.
Yeah. And you're always only gonna I always say like you're only gonna get what you feel safe enough to get. Like our
Yeah.
nervous system is gonna protect us. I always tell people actually to start with breath work because
Mm,
a lot of us don't, and when I say breath work, I mean like not what you probably expected you were going to
yeah.
get, which was like just learning how to breathe.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us don't know how to do that. A lot of us don't
Yeah.
know how to feel safe at all within our bodies. So you can go into these modalities and just have so much unearthed that you're not prepared to feel, that
Mm,
sometimes it's better. Like I had somebody ask me today in a comment and they were like, well, what about if I want to figure out the pattern and do the shadow work, but I can't remember any of my childhood? And I'm like, well, if you repressed your entire childhood, you should start by feeling safe in your body because
yeah.
right now your body feels safe being unsafe.
Yeah. And I've had this discussion, like I remember doing so I did my breathwork certification and then I did the next level. And
Uh-huh.
I had that exact discussion with the facilitator. I'm like, I got what I needed. And
Uh-huh.
now I recognize that when people walk in my door or come into my space, their systems, their bodies, they're not ready for that all the time. Like very rarely is
Uh-huh.
somebody, especially new to breathwork, ready to drop into a conscious, connected, very deep
Yeah.
journey. And it can frighten them. And a lot of the time they may not come back because they're not
Uh-huh.
safe to receive, they're not safe to feel. And so I think there needs to be a process, like there needs to be a journey of like we start slow and small and we develop what you said, like that safety in your body and
Uh-huh.
and like also educating them along the way, like this is why you are
Yeah.
meeting this, or this is why this is recurringly coming up, because you
Uh-huh.
can't just bring them into a session, drop them in, let them have this extreme
Yeah,
expression or
conscious breathing is
experience.
another
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then send them out the door.
Yeah.
It's not okay. Like they need to be well supported. They need to be wrapped in love because we know that even when they walk out the door, so much is still coming up. And that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter if it's breath work or Reiki or
Or
Kundalini, like the
exactly.
experience after and that integration time, it's so important. And there's
I feel
so
like it's
much
more
fear.
important, the integration.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And like we don't just become the portal, we need to provide that support ongoing so they can
Yes,
help
exactly.
unpack and make sense. And yeah.
I know you're not a big lover of the human design, but I obviously love human design. And that's why I always say, like, I feel like any of these modalities, the breath work, the Kundalini activations, which I've done before and are fabulous. But for me, like, Kundalini is very mild. It's a very
Mm,
mild thing for me. It's just like a fun meditation, really. I've never had any wild experiences. Sometimes I feel a little energy rise, but it's not really crazy for me, like from a physical standpoint. But it's the way it opens the channel to your higher self.
Mhm.
Like I do Kundalini yoga every single morning. Like that is how I start my morning, connecting, bowing, surrendering to my higher self and saying, lead me where I need to be led today. Um,
Mhm.
but like the Kundalini activation, breath work, any of these things have always been something that open that channel, and you're
Mhm.
just more susceptible to the signs, right? And so I really do think that from a human design perspective, looking at like how to just quickly be like, you don't even need to be a human design expert, but being like, okay, this is how you're going, this is your authority. Okay. Like
Yeah.
now pay attention to how you're going to hear your higher self. Cause like for me, it's going to be through excitement because I'm a manifesting generator. For you, it's
Mm.
going to be through like splenic, random, odd things that come into your head that you're like, I want to do this. Okay, go do it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I
To
really do think
note,
it's like
I
that.
love human design. I just haven't looked into anyone else's except for mine.
Yes,
I
yeah,
want
I
to.
know. But I mean, you don't even need to be a human design guru. Like if you just added that extra bit and just said, okay, like this is just listen to the odd moments, just listen to the excitement, listen to
Mhm.
what makes you happy, depending on what they were. That's literally all you need to do as that extra like nudge of like pointing them in the right direction because it just opens up this channel. Like the integration is truly for a few days, you are connected.
Mm.
And if you know how to listen, it is much smoother for
And if
sure.
you know what to listen for. And
Yes,
I
yeah.
just to also reflect on like you sharing your experience of Kundalini, which I love. I think social media has portrayed these big, wild physical expressions and releases with
Hmm.
Kundalini activations. And that is something that can happen, but something that, like I learned, and I will say at the beginning of my session is that's not always what you're going to experience. In fact,
Hmm.
sometimes the more peaceful, more like a really deep guided meditation journey of Kundalini activation can be just as powerful, if not more. It's deeper. It doesn't need
Hmm.
the wild physical expression. I just see the physical expression as being like stored energy in the body that's trying to mobilize and find a way out, because oftentimes it is what I think is dysregulating our nervous system, that energy that's stored in the body that we
Yeah.
don't know how to face and we don't know what to do with. So sometimes
Mm,
those deeper journeys, and the Kundalini, she's active for, 7, 10, 12 days after sometimes. She's
yeah.
wild. She can be wild in the
Yes.
most subtle way.
Yes. I've always had subtle. I have a theory around that in human design too, because my chart is very defined. So I feel like it would be coming, like I'd be feeling it through my open centers. And I only have up here open and emotion. And that's interesting because that's how my clairs came up was through claircognizance and
Mm,
through clairsentient. And isn't that interesting that those are the only places that aren't inherently me, and that's the only place where I can feel the
mm,
other consciousness, if you will. So I also feel like
mm,
that's kind of the same too, because when I go into a Kundalini activation, I will cry sometimes, like I
mm,
will feel and I will cry and I will know things or I will see things, and those are
mm.
literally the only places that I'm undefined. So that I feel like that's how I'm feeling the world right now. And this is
Yeah.
kind of how, yeah, that's my theory. I can't prove
Mm,
it.
yeah. But you will intuitively know that that is how it's working through you and moving through you. You
Hmm.
don't need
Hmm.
evidence to back up your theory.
The Kundalini, though, is I feel like that's what really sparked the clairs for me, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was
It's
like
like she went, time to come up.
yeah, if you're ready to turn yourself on, give Katie a call.
Yes, let's
Yeah.
do that.
Let's do. So, going back to your own cocooning, what was the first glimpse that you had that there was more than just your body, more than just control? Because that's where you're coming from. You're coming from the same thing as me, which is all about body. Not
Mm,
body in the sense that we use it as a tool now, I feel,
Yeah.
but body as a validation almost.
I think in subsequent breath sessions to that first one, and even moving through releasing layers for me,
Mhm.
I learned that my body is so powerful, and it is my connection to consciousness, whether that's spirit, Christ, call it what you want, like whatever
Yeah.
works best for you. It is
Mhm.
that it opens in being able to connect to your body, you can open that portal and you can be connected to your higher self. You can be connected to, I call it Papatuanuku, or we might say Pachamama or Mother Earth. I think there has just been so many steps along my journey that have reinforced that since I knew it, since I was shown.
Mm.
Um, and they're undeniable, no matter how much you try
Mm.
and fight them. And I think we've used our bodies to try and control our realities in if I
Yes.
look a certain way, or if I, grow a bigger booty or whatever, like I will fit, I will belong, I will be accepted, I will
Mhm.
be loved. But what if we
Mhm.
actually remove the pressure of having to have our physical body be presented in a
Mhm.
certain way, and we actually go into the cocoon and discover
Mhm.
what's beneath? Because what's beneath is both the light and the dark. It is
Mhm.
the experience, it's the stored memory, and it's not just ours. It comes from many, many generations before us. So what
Yeah.
if we get to tap into that power and that knowing and that wisdom and guidance that comes through from those that came before us, and bring that
Yeah.
into this lifetime to be able to not only help ourselves but help others. And that's
Yes, that's
big.
beautiful. That
It's
is big.
big. And when you tell most people that, they will look at you like a crazy person with two heads and run away because they are scared. Because they are
Mm.
scared. And I think for most of us, if we're really honest, we have been shown and we have been presented opportunities to know this, but we have
Mhm.
pushed them away because
Put the blinders on.
what happens if I go down that rabbit hole? What does my life look like? What happens to the relationships I
Mm.
have with the people around me? Who judges me? Do I become unlovable? Do I become
Mm.
unacceptable in a way that I would if my body looked different to how it is? Like there's so much fear, so much
It's
fear that
in
keeps people out.
keeps people's Yes, it's interesting. I know you don't know like the Bible, but the book of Revelation, in the book of Revelation, when the way I see it, the way I've been shown it is like the dismantling of illusion, right? And in that, it's basically what's happening is basically what you're saying, which is that people are shown these things, maybe they see your content or they see my content and they're like, nope. And they grab those Bibles and they go and hide in the caves, right?
Mm,
Or whatever it is that they were using as blinders and they go and hide from the truth because they're not ready to have everything that they built their identity on have to come
yeah.
crumbling down.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
Because then who are they? But
Yeah.
my perspective on that, my flip on that is like when it all comes crumbling down, the identity that you've built according to the standards that have been shown to you, taught you,
Yep.
you let that crumble and you actually get to discover who you are.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
And it's always better.
majority of people, it is always better, but majority of people will get to the end of their life and never have
And never
known
experience it.
who they really are and what their purpose
Yeah.
here in this world is. They will never
Yeah.
have that level of consciousness. They will never have a true channel or connection to spirit because there's
Hmm.
so much fear. And the patriarchy has wanted that, right?
Absolutely.
They, especially for women, they want to keep us out of our power. They want us to not see. They want us to not know because then we are controllable.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. That's exactly what's happening. And we need to wake
Um,
up. We need to, and it's interesting. I don't know if you've had this knowing or feeling or however it is that you get things, but I remember at the very beginning, I had this like understanding that I chose this, like that I chose this life, that I chose these lessons, that I chose exactly what I was going to go through in order to wake up in this moment. And,
mm.
in that understanding, we choose to come here. We choose to come here and to forget.
Yeah,
We
it's a soul
choose
contract.
every time. And I do believe
Yeah,
that you come here over and over again until you remember.
until you learn the
Um,
lessons.
and in that sense, I feel like this is a little bit kind of like already hell, but it's not hell, like it's not there. It's not it. And that's why I like the one line in Yellowstone that says, Beth says that there are people on this earth that are living in heaven while she's living in hell. And like that's
Mm.
the truth. Like we are the creators of our own reality, and there are people here living heaven on earth, and there are people here living hell on earth, and
Hell
then there's
on
the
earth.
people in between trying to just figure out their way.
Yeah,
Um yeah, so interesting.
Yellowstone, great. Love it.
Yeah. I know anytime I can bring some cultural references in, why not? I try to bring it
Mm.
to the the forefront of the brain to make sense. So what do you
Mm.
feel like in this beautiful experience in a cocoon? There's always something that it really sticks that what do you feel like was the hardest thing that you've had to shed? Like what did you grieve that you didn't expect to?
Do you know, I think if I think about that question, the hardest thing for me to grieve was not a loss. It
Mm,
was the anger that I felt towards certain members of my family who I love
mm,
dearly. Like, don't get me
mm-hmm,
wrong, but I had suppressed so much anger that I held. And
mm-hmm.
in turn, I really invalidated how the young version of me really felt and what she
Mm,
needed.
mhm.
Um, and I really had to learn that anger was safe and anger
Yeah.
wasn't bad. Um,
Mhm.
and I was super grateful to be guided through that journey of developing a really like loving relationship with anger or my own anger
Mhm.
by a mentor because I really don't think I could have done that on my own.
Mm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it was, yeah, it was grieving the version of me that didn't think she was allowed to feel angry.
Yeah. I
Mm.
think that there's a lot of people listening to this that will feel the same way. Like
Mm.
going back to patriarchy being teaching
Yeah.
us that it isn't safe to feel emotions, to feel angry,
Yeah.
to feel wrath, because that's the only emotion that will burn the illusion to the ground. I
Mm.
think you have to get
100%.
you have to get angry or you don't like. And also going back to the beginning where one of my big revelations was for me, my awakening was being so angry at my husband, like us having such very differing opinions on politics in this case, that I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I had to start,
Mhm.
I was like, I had to create a daily meditation, like going in to start
Mm.
realizing that the only thing I could change was myself.
Mm. Yeah.
And so I really do think it's in that anger, it's in that polarity, in like feeling like I don't want to feel this. Not that you
Mm.
don't want to feel it, but allowing yourself to feel it so fully that you burn the illusion to the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. And like for most of us, when we have that perception of anger being bad and negative, and we shouldn't feel like that, we create this shame that sits in our body. And so then
Yes.
anytime anger does come up, you can feel it like it's gross, it's icky, it's heavy.
Mm,
Like the greatest thing Nikki ever told me about anger when I was moving through it and learning to accept it was like, it is the first sign that someone has crossed your boundaries or that you have leaky boundaries.
Mm,
Or you have no boundaries where you want something, but you don't believe you are worthy enough to have it. So you don't enforce your boundaries. And, like, so now anytime I feel angry, I'm looking at my boundaries. Like I'm going back
mm,
in. I'm like, where am I lacking? Where am I leaking energy? Where am I allowing other people's energy to leak in? Because
mhm.
if someone else is making me angry, I've given away my power.
You know what's interesting? That I did that QHHT, and that woman told me I figured out during that session how I gave myself cancer. We won't go down that rabbit
Mm,
hole today. But she mentioned before the session, because I was talking about having cancer, that uh, some I had watched a video and it said that it was some emotion. She was like, "No, no, it's anger, honey. It's anger
mm,
that causes cancer." And I was like, "Oh." So then I'm sitting there thinking like maybe it was like anger for someone else and like it was put onto me, but I realized it was anger. And I was 9.
mm,
I was actually 8. I was almost 9 when I got sick. And once I saw this past life and realized the connection of who my mother was in that life and who my mother was in this life, and how
mm,
this person was about to leave me
yeah.
when I was that age, and I was so angry that I was losing my mother again, I ended up with cancer. So isn't that wild that when we don't allow ourselves to feel these emotions fully, that
Mm.
it literally creates within our bodies the environment that causes disease
Yeah,
energetically?
100%. And people don't really recognize that a lot of their anger is also not theirs. It is from
Yeah.
generations past. And if we look at the women in our lineage, especially over the last 120-ish years, those women were not allowed to say they were angry. They were not allowed to
No,
express their anger. They had to
they were not.
accept being treated a certain way because that is the way that was normal or
Mhm.
acceptable. Um, and I think like my defining moment at the beginning of my journey was something popped up on my Instagram one day. And I see this all the time now. And I really look at it as a beautiful reminder. Like there are certain people in our life, well, in my lifetime, I'm chosen. I know I have two
Mhm.
of my incredible cousins in my family who have also been chosen. The three of us have been chosen to stop the rubbish. Like
Mm.
we are strong enough. Our soul contracts is about breaking that cycle. It is about
Mhm.
creating a new way forward. It's about being able to show the generations that come after us a new way, a better
Yeah.
way, a way where there doesn't need to be anger and there doesn't
Mhm.
need to be the butting of heads and opinions because everyone and all their parts are welcome as they are, and you can be connected to spirit and busy in the masculine doing, and you can live
Mhm.
a really
Mhm.
balanced life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
So,
that gets lost too, is realizing you have to still be both, you know? I think sometimes you
yeah,
go so far into the feminine that you forget
yeah,
that you also need to learn to expand your masculine to contain it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like, we are busy women, regardless of this journey that we're walking and the healing that we've done and we continue to do. And we still have to cook dinner at night. We still have to make sure the
Yes.
kids are sorted. We still have to make sure
Yeah.
the
I
bills
still
are
have to
paid.
change
This,
diapers. I know you don't have to, but
yes.
yeah.
So yeah, like we have to learn that being both is okay, and we create our own form of what is acceptable in that instance. Like
Yeah.
it's really easy to look on social media and see all the incredible women that are doing the work and they have no partners, or they might have a partner, but maybe they don't have children or animals, and they
Mhm.
can move to Bali or they can move to,
Mhm.
beautiful tropical islands and live
Mhm.
this life of freedom. And then we go, well, how come I don't get that? Or there's no way I could have that level of freedom, but
Mm.
maybe we can. Ours just looks different.
Exactly. And a lot of the times those people don't feel great on the inside either, you know, like
No.
we're comparing ourselves to something that somebody's putting on the internet, but is that really how they feel inside? A lot of times it's
Mm.
not. But
No.
yeah, you've held a lot of versions of yourself, a lot of different versions of yourself, a lot of different versions of what power looks like in Katie. So how do you define it now?
I think for me personally, it is in the surrender. It is in what part,
Mm,
like I know that my power comes in many parts and versions, and all have served such incredible purpose. It's like surrender in the moment. Like, what part of me needs to be in my power in this very situation or this time? So
hmm.
I don't think it ever looks a certain way. I think it
Yeah.
looks as it needs to for whatever I'm transversing or moving through. And I know that I have this really deep energetic power that is always moving through me and supporting that.
Hmm.
So that's a really bland kind of answer or non committal answer, I suppose, but it's always
But I think
different.
it's the
And
best one, you know?
yeah,
Your power is that you always have that power wherever you're surrendering to. It's like your power is in the fluidity and the flow, which I think
the
people
flow. Yeah.
forget that that is power, in my opinion. I totally agree. It's
Mm,
being able to surrender to divine timing, to divine flow, and being in that beautiful creative flow where you're led to the next thing and the next thing. And that's truly where you build the highest version of yourself is in the surrender and in the
yeah.
fluidity.
And, and just like, yeah. And saying that, it's that like being divinely guided as well and
Mhm.
allowing that guidance. Like when you surrender, and I think that's part of the cocoon, right? It's like going in because
Mm,
when we're not in a cocoon, like we can be in a cocoon and be living our best life because when we're not in there, we're so distracted by what's outside of us that
mhm,
we are not connected and we are not as conscious and we're not as aware and we are not in our power because everything outside of us is trying to
mhm,
take it away or dim it or dull it. So when we go in, we always have access to that. And I really truly believe I'm always divinely guided, even when it's not working out how I want it to. The mind,
mhm,
the
mhm.
ego still wants it to
Expectation.
look a certain way. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, we can just
Yeah,
be incredibly connected and within and in alignment.
yeah.
Mm.
How do you feel like now you're in this new location? How do you feel? How is the land, the lineage, and that energy where you moved to? How has it shaped this spiritual evolution?
Yeah, so we've been here for about 6 months now. And I think I've told you this before you told me that this was one of our questions. So we have this incredibly large farm, like we have a lot of stock here, and our back fence is essentially a river. And
Mm,
it's a natural spring. There are parts of it that are blue, and it's called the Waihau, but
wow.
it's the blue springs. Um,
Mhm.
and the minute when we came to look at this land and this property, we got driven down there. And the minute I stepped foot on the land, I just got this, you're meant to be here. Like I knew it was
Mm.
just, I was
A
almost in
visceral
tears because
response.
I felt the energy and the beauty that was here.
Mm,
And I felt that part of why I was coming here was to do a lot of work to help the land heal. Like a lot has happened here in its
mm.
time. And the land here is so powerful, but it needs someone to nurture it and really just help
Yeah.
alchemize what it's been holding here. And so I think really what I've discovered the more time I spend down at the Awa is that when I'm there, it's like I become the portal between the land and spirit.
Mm.
And I get to bring
Wow.
that energy and that knowing through my human
Mm.
to
Mhm.
share with the people that are ready to receive that magic, that medicine, that knowing, that guidance,
That's
that
beautiful.
support. So this
That is
land
beautiful.
here, I'm very connected to it. I feel it it's like when I drive in the driveway, I just feel it. It's like a warm bath, you know. It's love,
Mm,
it's power in the best.
mm.
Mm,
Yes, I love that. That's beautiful. Very beautiful. Going back to the cocooning, I think one thing that I've really learned is that the cocoon has to go with you everywhere. Like, I think we think that it's going to be, it's the same thing as, this is going to relate to you since you also come from coaching women. They think that they're going to spend 8 weeks doing this cut and then all of a sudden they can go back to eating shit. But
yeah.
that's not how this metamorphosis works either, is that you need to take the cocoon with you, right? It's not that I think there's a point in time where you really go into the cocoon and you're really in it like all day, every day for months
Mm,
sometimes. But then it's once you're ready to take your first steps out of it, you still need to take some of that cocoon with you. So what do you feel like is your favorite go-to, I guess, integrative practice that you can do daily or almost daily
mm.
that
Yeah,
keeps you
so
with one foot in the cocoon?
for me it is often it's like just being active. It's being out on the land, but
Mm.
I do spend a lot of time with cacao at the river.
Oh, I love that.
And it's in the quiet, Jesse. It's the quiet moments where
Mhm.
I really, maybe I've forgotten it and I just call it back. It's
Yeah.
it's just knowing that actually I have the power to step back in fully anytime I want and feel the
Whenever you
need.
want.
But I
Mhm.
spend a lot of time here, like breath. It doesn't always have to be a full deep breath work session or a 30-minute long meditation. It can just be consciously connecting back
Yeah.
into my body. Often that comes with cacao. I love cacao because it's a heart opener, and no matter what's going on in
Mm.
the world, coming back into your heart and coming back to love, like that's always going to be a perfect way to be present.
I think I need to get on a plane and go to New Zealand to do a cacao ceremony with you.
100%. 100 at the river.
At the river specifically. When are you running this
Yeah.
retreat?
Well,
Um,
that's kind of my vision for the river is like day
yeah.
retreats down there.
That would be beautiful. I mean, obviously
Mm,
that's not in motion yet. So how can whoever's listening to this, how can they contact you? How can they learn more about you and your services?
yeah. So I have not updated my website in a very long time, so not that way. So just reaching out via socials. I am Katie Hales on Instagram and having a chat. Like I'd much prefer that. I want to connect. I don't just want to
Mhm.
send people a sales page or a join up page or this is about me. Like let's chat. I'd rather chat
Love that.
and meet people where they're at and have them be able to meet me where I'm at as well.
Yes, I love that. Well, thank you so much for unraveling with me today and sharing your story, which is like literally a mirror of who I am. And it was a good reminder to
I
anyone
think that's
listening
why
that
we connected.
yes, we didn't even realize we were going to be going on this same journey together almost at the exact same time, but in different. It's so beautiful because I went down this like Christed journey and
Mm,
then yours is like so connected to the land and to Mother Earth. And I still love those
mm,
things too. And right now I'm trying to incorporate more of those things in. Um, but also, I think we've always just been like, okay, how do we meet in the middle? And how do more people do
yeah.
what we're doing? It's okay the label means nothing.
Mm.
And it's
And it
so
doesn't need
frustrating
to
when we get
look a
stuck on
certain
that.
way. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to look a certain way to tick the boxes.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to. And, if those who are listening can realize that not only it does it not have to look a certain way, that space in between identities, that is that molting, it's where you go undone. And to know that when you're
Mm.
in that in between, you are not broken, you are just becoming. So
Yeah,
thank you for listening.
exactly.
I love you, and I will see you in the next
I
spiral.
love you too. Thank you. Thank you for having me.